1. So this happened about 5 or 6 years ago, but I remember most of what happened. At the time, I worked at a retail store as a cart pusher, pulling the evening shifts. The evening of the incident, I was outside doing what I was paid to, when out of nowhere the power went out. There was not a light on anywhere, and it was dark already, so it was completely pitch black out. Me and the other cart pusher on duty head inside and speak with management to see what we are supposed to do. Management said that it was a safety risk for us to be pushing carts while there were no lights, and cars couldn't see us. They had the other cart pusher taking dried ice that we sold and putting it in cold bunkers and freezers and covering them with plastic to try and save the food. They then placed me on one of the doors to try and deter anyone trying to steal anything while the lights were out. When the power went out, registers went down, so they were trying to get all the customers out as we were going to close the store down till the power was brought back up. So I'm standing at the door with no issues, besides the people I am sure had small items stashed. Now I'm sure you're wondering why I'm posting here if there weren't any issues. Well, it didn't stay that way. Enter the thief with the big old brass balls. Brass Balls comes walking my way with a shopping cart loaded to the brim with merchandise, not a single bit of which was in a bag besides one little loan bag. I stop the guy, and this is how the conversation goes. "Excuse me, sir, can I see your receipt?" He fidgets nervously.
Sure, here you go."
He hands me the receipt and I look at it, and there is only the few items that are in the bag on it. "Sir, only the stuff in the bag is on here. Do you have another receipt for the rest of the stuff in the cart?" Nervous fidgeting intensifies.
I was at self-checkout and had paid for this stuff, but the power went out before it could print me a receipt.
If my retail spidey sense wasn't tingling before, it definitely is now, for 2 reasons. First, as I mentioned earlier, this cart had stuff piled to the brim. No one with that much stuff is going to the self-checkout. Second, none of it was in a bag. Even if he did go to the self-checkout like he said, because he is a weirdo or something, he would have to put the stuff in a bag as he scanned it. I decided it's time to get management involved. "Sir, give me 1 moment while I get a manager." Unfortunately, the other cart pusher still has the radio that we share between the lot of us. Yeah, that one was obviously not thought out very well. I start trying to get someone's attention from where I'm at, because there is no way that I am going to walk away from this guy. You guessed it. Brass Ball's nervous fidgeting intensifies even further.
"I'm in a hurry. I really need to get going."
"Sir, please wait." We go back and forth with him trying to say he needs to leave and me telling him to wait. All the while I am still trying to get a manager. Finally I get a manager's attention and he comes over to see what's going on. I give him the rundown of what is going on and show him the receipt that I already have. "Sir, do you have a receipt for the rest of this stuff?"
"No, I paid at self-checkout and the power went out before it could print one."
"Unfortunately, sir, as you do not have a receipt for everything, I cannot let you leave with anything besides what is on the receipt you do have. If you come back when the power is back, we can search for the transaction in our system and get everything straightened out for you." Naturally, Brass Balls takes the bag of stuff on the receipt and quickly leaves the store, and I don't think he came back to look up that transaction either. I don't know what was going through his mind when he decided to try and walk out with a cart of unpaid-for, non-bagged items. I don't know if he thought because I was young and working at a retail store that I was stupid, or maybe that I would be too scared to call him on it. With how fidgety he was, he obviously knew he was caught. The funny thing is, if he decided to just book it with that cart full of stuff, there would have been absolutely nothing I could do to stop him. I was not about to run after him. Even if I did, I would be fired by the next day. I guess the guy was just too scared to actually do it. In case you were wondering what caused the power to go out, I heard later that some kind of animal had gotten into the power relay station and caused a fire. I'm not sure entirely what kind of animal, because no one I talked to agreed on what animal it was. Also, even with the precautions taken to try and preserve the cold and frozen food, the power was out so long that we ended up having to throw it all out. The store ended up losing food totaling upwards of $40,000. 2. Let's start off with a summary of my job. I'm a truck driver for the local sod company. Sod is pre-grown grass that gets the soil underneath dug up, and then rolled up onto pallets to be placed on the yard instead of using grass seed that takes a while to grow. We mostly deliver it to new developments so people have a yard when they move into their brand new home. We also deliver to homeowners that order it from time to time. The important part for this story is that we also deliver to the local Lowe's and Home Depot in this area, as well as a few other landscaping stores. Typically, we deliver it at night to avoid traffic and crowded parking lots. But sometimes I'll run doubles, which will force my hand and have me run during store hours. Here's the cast. Me, mediocre employee. I am idiot mom, CK, curious kid. About 7 or so. And M, manager. So I'm working a typical day with a good number of Home Depot and Lowe's stores for the day, and it's evening, around 7 or 8 at a Lowe's. I park my truck down by the garden area, activate my hazards, and pop out of the truck and get to work unstrapping the sod. This location had 4 pallets going here. I turn on the forklift of my trailer so I can get myself unloaded. As I'm doing this, I am and CK are walking by, and CK gets real curious as to how my forklift gets on and off the trailer, and asks me before I hopped up onto the lift. I wondered that for a while myself before getting this job, so I was more than happy to answer. I explained to the kid that I basically put the forks of the lift into the slot on the trailer and lower the forks. And since it can't go down with the trailer holding it, and the trailer is firmly on the ground, it instead lifts the forklift. And then pull the forks in, but again firmly in the trailer. So it instead pulls the lift up against the trailer. I do the opposite to get it off. CK is wide-eyed at this, though I'm sure he doesn't quite get my explanation. You're more than welcome to watch me get it off. The kid turns to his mom. Can I, Mom? Of course, dear. I need to get mulch, so I'll be at the register paying for it. I thought of this as no big deal as the register was close by and in full view of where I was. I proceed to get on the lift and get it off the trailer, all while the kid watches in amazement. I go and take several of the pallets off the truck and place them in their designated spot. One of the pallets unfortunately breaks and falls apart. We reuse pallets, and some seem in good condition when we harvest the sod, so it happens from time to time. Annoying, but no big deal. We just restack it on a different pallet. I hop off the lift and go to stack the fallen sod onto one of the pallets already there that had the previous delivery's sod on it. I usually leave the lift on because, well, I'm not a fan of the company for reasons I won't get into, so I don't go out of my way to save money for them, like saving gas. As I'm moving the fallen sod onto the pallet, IM comes up to me with a receipt in her hand. Excuse me, but when you're done, I need a pallet of mulch loaded onto the back of my pickup. She points to the back of a truck parked near my 18-wheeler. Oh, I'm sorry, ma'am, I don't actually work here. I just deliver the sod. Don't give me that just because you want to be lazy. I appreciate you keeping my kid entertained and all, but I'm in a hurry. As I said before, I don't work for Lowe's, I just deliver the sod. I'm sure the cashier has already called for someone to come help you out. I used to work for Home Depot, so I know for a fact they did. Well, you're here now, so you can help me now, or I'm calling your manager. I laugh at this one. My manager doesn't put up with behavior like this, so I'm amused on how that conversation would go. And 2, I'm amused that people think this is a trump card that will get people to do what you want. Are you making fun of me? No, ma'am. Forgive me. But I can't load your truck for the reason that I don't work here, so if I damaged your truck while getting the pallet on, I could be held liable, not Lowe's or my work. And while I'm very good with the lift, I'd rather not try my luck. Why don't you wait for an actual employee to help you? Fine then, I'll find some other way. She starts to walk away, dragging CK, and I think that's the end of it. Boy, was I wrong. As I'm returning back to restacking the fallen sod, IM stops just by the lift on her way back to her truck, and an idea forms in her head. I looked just in time to see IM hop up into the seat of my still-running lift. Oh shit. If you've never used a lift designed to be on a truck before, they are quite different than most lifts you see in stores like Home Depot and Sam's Club. I've used lifts in both. Mine has 2 pedals, one for power on the right, and the other to control forward or backwards on the left. I nearly pressed the left pedal plenty of times while climbing on. It's that close to the edge of the driver's compartment. While I'm trying to get over to her to stop her, she steps on the left pedal, causing it to move forward. This startles her, and she panically sits down and her other foot presses down on the right pedal, causing the speed to go from a slow crawl to a full sprint. Now mind you, these lifts aren't the fastest in terms of top speed, but boy do they have some incredible acceleration on them. She flies forward and quickly grabs the steering wheel, turning it. This causes the lift to turn right, and slams the side of it into me, throwing me onto the ground. She regains herself enough to turn the wheel straight, but not enough to realize to stop the lift. She just has to lift her feet off the pedal. I seriously wonder how she's gotten her license. Instead, she reaches for the levers that control the boom. She looks up in time to see she's heading straight for my truck and tries to stop the lift by pulling a lever. A witness stated it looked like she was scared, not that it was intentional or angry. Instead of stopping the lift, she lifts the forks up and slams into my truck, forks piercing into the hood. Finally, the lift comes to a halt and the engine shuts off since she's still pressing the pedal at this point. She finally hops off as the manager runs onto the scene. I assume he was called because of the argument earlier, and had less to do than the workers called to help IM, resulting in his quicker response.
What the hell happened?
I'm on the ground writhing in agony, thinking I'm going to die at this time. The cashier who checked out IM ran to my aid while M goes to IM, trying to figure out what happened. I couldn't speak, but I could still see, barely, and hear clearly.
This employee of yours was refusing to load my mulch onto my truck, so I decided I was going to do it myself.
She's holding on to CK, who's crying his eyes out, thinking his mom was really hurt.
Him? That guy doesn't even work for this company. He's just a delivery driver.
At this point, I'm realizing that I'm not going to die, that instead I have the wind knocked out of me, sprained ankle and a broken wrist, along with a back full of cuts and scrapes. The cashier yelled to the manager that I was okay, but still needed an ambulance. The police were the first to the scene and were quick to arrest IM, since she all but confessed that she hit me. Before being drove off to the hospital, they asked if I wanted to press charges. Trust me, I really thought of doing it. But her kid was really sweet and even tried to make sure I was okay, and was saying he was sorry his mom did that. So for his sake, I declined. Besides, I was 3 hours away from where I live, so I'd have to come all the way out here if I wanted to follow through with it, every time there was a hearing, so that was the other reason. The officer did reassure me that with the camera and witness reports, that she was going to get charged with destruction of property, disorderly conduct, and a few other charges, and that for those, I just needed to provide a written statement later. Her insurance also covered the damage to the truck, which totaled almost $30,000, due to a good chunk of damage being in the engine. My boss had to not only get a tow truck out there, but a replacement truck to grab the trailer, since the tow truck wasn't allowed to tow a trailer unless the truck was picked up from the side of the road. It's been 2 weeks and I'm fine now and I'm back on the job. The rental truck is automatic, which is the only reason I'm glad for automatics, because I still have the cast on. And it's going to be another month or two before my truck is out of the shop. Last I heard was that IM pled guilty to all charges at the advice of her lawyer and had to spend 6 months in jail and do community service and probation. She was also banned from all Lowe's, no surprise there. And to answer the question of why I didn't just take it easy while my leg was healing, I simply can't sit around and do nothing. I've always had myself busy, and I've done this since getting out of college. Also, I get paid way more working my job, even at half my normal time when the insurance is paying me being out. So, I'm sure you're all wondering why I didn't press charges on her. To be quite honest, it was mostly because of her son. Now, obviously, I'm not going to put our entire conversation for the sake of space, but we did talk a little more than I put in the story. He was a very cute kid and very curious of the world around him. Before I met my wife now, I had an ex who had a son that I absolutely adored, and I wish that she wasn't such a not so nice lady, that she still let me see him. But she doesn't. Unless she's there and she's constantly helicopter parenting him, to the point where neither of us really enjoy our time together anymore. The kid reminded me so much of him, and I really didn't want to take his mom away from him for so long, knowing that she was already going to get charged with several different things as it is. I get that maybe some of you don't agree with that reasoning, but that's how I feel, and that's what I'm going to stick with. Also, some may be wondering how her insurance covered all that damage. Honestly, I can't really answer that question. That's what my boss had told me when I was a little worried about the company's insurance, fear of it affecting my health insurance in the future mostly, and that's the response that he gave me. I don't know anything about insurance and will never claim I do. My boss is one of those guys that will yell at you for every wrongdoing that happens, yet acts all buddy-buddy with you and tells you exactly what you want to hear when everything's fine and hunky-dory. All I know for sure is that my medical bills are paid, and truck is being repaired with no out-of-pocket to me, and my wages lost for the 2 weeks I was out are covered. 3. This story takes place at a fairly well-known tire shop in America, so just for safety's sake, I'm not going to really say. CD is a crazy dude, CM will be cool manager, AM will be an assistant manager we were borrowing from another store. It's pertinent, trust me, and me is me. Duh. So as a little bit of preface, I was not the salesman who originally interacted with this person, so I can only really say what happened clearly from where I came in. I was working our front counter when CD walks up to me and immediately launches into how a tire we sold him was defective. From the conversation, I gathered that AM had helped him with getting a car tire for his motorcycle. I know it's weird, but some people like doing it for some reason. AM made sure it was abundantly clear to CD that while we could sell him the car tire, since it was going on a motorcycle, we could do nothing else. We can't try to mount it, can't put air in it, can't do anything. It's completely against company policy and would get whoever touched it fired. CD then willingly bought said car tire and went on his merry way. Not for long, of course, or I wouldn't be sharing. Later he called back and complained over the phone that it was a defective tire and our saleswoman told him to bring it back and we would swap it for a different one or refund it. And that's when I had the misfortune of meeting him.
Finally, this tire you sold me is defective, and I couldn't get it to hold air on my motorcycle wheel.
I'm thinking to myself, well, that's unlikely. You probably just were doing it wrong, or need to seal the spokes on the wheel itself. But putting on my best customer service smile, no problem, sir, let me just take a look at it. I see that the tire is fine, so I figure, whatever, I'll just give him another one and put this one back into stock. As I pull up his information on the computer in front of me, each salesperson has a standing desk with a monitor, keyboard and stuff. He is visibly impatient. Alright, I can go ahead and take this one from you and I'll just grab a different one for you. At this point his crazy started coming out.
The woman on the phone told me that I could get a refund.
Yeah, that's not a problem. I can also do that if you prefer to just get your money back.
I need a new tire. This one was defective.
I'm somewhat confused now, but I'm sure I can figure it out. Well, I can either give you your money back or get you a new tire. Either is really just up to you.
No. The woman on the phone said I could get a refund. You're going to get me a tire that isn't defective, and I want my money back for the inconvenience.
I'm sorry, sir, but I can't do that. I can happily get you a refund, though.
Well, where's the woman I spoke to? She'll do it for me.
She's not in today, and I apologize if she led you to believe that she would do that for you. But she doesn't have the authority to offer something like that either. At this point, I'm sure you can guess what happened next.
Let me talk to your manager.
So, I walk out to find CM, mostly glad that CD is now officially not my problem anymore. I catch CM out in the parking lot and briefly tell him what's going on so as not to dump it all on him at once. As I get to the end of my explanation, so he wants to get a new tire and is insisting we give him a refund as well. Yeah, that's not gonna happen. I know, but you get to tell him that. At this point I went inside for a much-needed bathroom break, and when I walked back to the sales counter I see one of our salesmen on the phone and CM is standing there smiling, a somewhat amazed and confused smile. Then I looked down to see that the computer monitor I had been using, in fact everything that was on top of that desk, was on the floor, busted open. So I look back at CM, and he just shrugs and explains that CD had just gotten more and more aggressive when he was calmly told by CM that we would either do a refund or a replacement. CD was screaming in CM's face,
No, you'll give me my fucking money back, and you will replace my goddamn motherfucking tire.
Somehow thinking yelling would pass some kind of charisma check, and swearing so hard that CM simply told him, if you can't stop swearing in my showroom, I'll have to ask you to continue this conversation in the parking lot. At which point CD flipped out even more and just let every cuss and insult he could at CM, who simply said, Alright, let's go outside. And then CD just swept everything off the desk and threw it on the ground, and stormed out into the parking lot. So CM told our other salesman, as aforementioned, to phone the police. The best part of all of this is that he couldn't leave our parking lot. This particular shop is on the very corner of two very busy highways in a huge city, approximately 2 million people, and he had chosen 4:30 p.m. rush hour as the best time to pull this stunt. So my coworker is on the phone with the cops saying, "No, I don't have to remember his license plate for his vehicle. He stuck 10 feet in front of me trying to merge into traffic." So the end result was he got pulled over only a mile away and charged with destruction of property. Later on, I found out that he had his bank dispute the original transaction. Fine, I guess. He left the defective tire behind in his tantrum, and then posted online about how we are despicable and would rather take him to court than honor his refund, and how that's no way to treat a long-time customer. That tire was literally the only thing he had ever bought from us. Also, fun note, I'm fairly handy and a bit, only a little, tech-savvy, and was able to put everything back together and fix it all, except for one single $10 VGA cable on the monitor. So he got arrested for only $10. 4. I am 20, male, and am German. English is not my first language, so be kind, please. I went to a very well-known electronics store here in Germany, looking for some Nintendo accessories for my Switch. As I stroll through the aisle, an old lady approaches me, asking me where to find Steam cards. Since I know that, I just told her they were by the register. The nice grandma was kind to me, and she told me she just thought to ask me because I was young and there were no employees nearby. So I helped her and went looking for my stuff again. I was wearing a red t-shirt and some really tight black pants. The shirt had Japanese signs printed on it as well, and I can't wrap my mind around how the next example thought I worked there. The story begins. As I picked up a nice case for my Nintendo Switch, I hear the signature There was not a single person around before, so I immediately look up. There she is. A real nice Karen, mid-50s, red short hair, and secretary glasses. Never seen anyone's face scream, "Soccer Mom," more.
"Excuse me. Where can I find," she reads from a note, "Bank Zoe RL 2755. A gaming monitor."
Oh, I actually know that. I just got one for myself. I just bought a whole setup and the store is close by, 3 hours ago. I understand why you had trouble finding the monitor since they aren't in the monitor aisle because they have a discount at the moment.
"I know. That's why I am here."
Here you go, pointing towards the monitor after walking her to the right aisle.
"I have back problems. I'll need you to carry that to checkout and my car."
No please or thank you. Not realizing she thinks I'm an employee. I can help you when I finish my shopping, but I think you can ask an employee to do that for you.
Aha! And you're sure you're not just being lazy?
Pardon?
If it's not your department, I understand, but acting like you don't work here is disgusting and lazy.
Well, I really don't work here. I just helped you because you asked, and I knew where the monitor you wanted was.
I saw you help that lady before. I know you work here. I want to speak to your manager, now.
She was actually going from fake smiling to screaming in a second, and I was terrified of this woman. I told you already I don't work here. Look at my shirt. You think that says the name of the store in Japanese? How can you even come to that conclusion?
You're not getting out of this. Help!
She literally, and I kid you not, starts screaming for help.
Are you insane?
I start walking off. At this point I am terrified of this psycho. She had a real wild and insane look in her eyes. I don't know why I just started walking, but I was actually so baffled I didn't know how to deal with that much insanity. Of course, Karen isn't just going to let me walk. The psycho decides to grab me with one arm around my neck, and the other hand is grabbing my throat. Now I start smelling the Prosecco. Just out of reaction and panic, I forcibly fight my way free of the claws of the Karen, and I elbow her face, accidentally. She is screaming bloody murder. I'm a really sensitive guy, and I just couldn't help it. I just start crying. I didn't know how to handle what happened at all. SM is bleeding and screaming, and I'm crying. By now, employees have arrived, and customers.
Ah! Your colleague just punched me in the nose! I don't work here, and she just grabbed me, and I panicked. I'm so sorry.
At this point, I try to see if Karen is okay, and want to help her up and apologize. I'm a huge guy, 191 centimeters tall, muscular, and I easily weigh 110 kilograms, so I felt like I could have reacted better to her assaulting me other than trying to break free with full force. As I apologize, while still weeping, the psycho scratches over my face, hitting my lip which started to bleed like crazy. Me and Karen are bleeding. I can't stop crying because my body doesn't know how to deal with that stress. Now we are sitting in separate rooms in the store waiting for police to arrive. The police pick up my story and give me real dirty looks and make some comments. I feel like the ground under my feet is slipping away. I still couldn't stop the weeping or bleeding of my face. After about 45 minutes of being scared out of my mind, the policemen come back with Karen behind them in handcuffs. They told me that they had reviewed the camera footage and that my story checks out 100%. They were taking her in anyways for actually throwing her phone in one of the employees of the store's face while waiting in that room. I'm sorry, I don't know the context to that. So they asked me if I would like to press charges too. I, of course, said yes. So, awful story with kinda happy end. One of the worst days of my life for sure. I'm a real snowflake. That was too much to handle for me. Case is still ongoing. I can keep you updated. Her hearing is in a couple of weeks, as this story happened shortly after the release of Smash Brothers for Switch, and German court is slow as fuck. All I know is that she spent a whole night in custody, which makes me extremely happy to hear. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this real and extreme I don't work here lady situation. 5. This story happened about 3 or 4 years ago, and is one of my most memorable stories from when I was a volunteer at a charity store in the city where I live. I don't recall the exact commentaries from what happened, so most of it will be paraphrasing. The cast: me, M, manager, AM, assistant manager, OL1, one elderly female customer, OL2, another elderly female customer. The preface. The day this story originates from was a stressful day. Some people attempted to steal stuff at the checkout. I'm a smart guy, nothing gets past me. As well as one guy who tried to steal a couple of shirts. Stealing is nasty stuff, worse from a charity store. Everything in this store cost £1. This story. I had been in the store since about 11 AM, and I was very tired as it approached closing time, from mentioned things in the preface. The store was incredibly busy all day. Only me, my manager, and my assistant manager were in the store tending it all day. M and AM were both lovely people to work with. So much so that I started using my time to AM's new store when she moved to one closer to her home, another charity store, after M and AM picked up new jobs, but I digress. The store had become very quiet with half an hour to closing time. Enter OL1 and OL2. Despite the stress from the day, I smiled and spoke to OL1 and OL2. Welcome, do you need any assistance?
Hello. I was looking for something for my granddaughter. She's going away soon.
OL2 was rather quiet, but I didn't mind. AM poked her head out from the store back room, seeing what was happening. Everything okay out here? Yeah, helping the customers, AM. I'll give M a call if I need some help. Enter M. She was an older woman, but I couldn't call her elderly. Don't get carried away talking to the customers, OP. I won't, M, don't worry. After I helped the ladies with their shopping, they told me stories from their experiences in the 1960s and 70s. Me, being born in the early 90s, had nothing to compare it to. QM and AM, as I was carried away talking to the customers, this time at the checkout. They both come forward and join in the conversation. AM mentioned we had a long and stressful day. OL1.
I'm sorry to hear that you've had a bad day. It hurts me knowing there are people like that out there.
It disgusts me people have the nerves to steal from any store. OL2 pipes up.
Shame the cops can't apply the same level of discipline from the 50s, dear.
I know, nowadays it's a slap on the wrist and a sore ear.
Believe me, kids.
Me, AM, and M are 23, 28, and mid-40s respectively at the time.
You'll meet many more good people than you will bad. Something I can tell you from many decades of life experience.
Now, I didn't want to ask how old these two ladies were, but I could tell they were elderly. I can believe what you're saying.
Lad, how old do you think we are?
OL2 was pleasant, and I have been having a good long conversation that helped me de-stress, so I compliment him without realizing. Oh, I'm gonna hazard a guess. 60? OL1 and OL2 laugh.
I'm 90 years old this year. He's a charmer.
That's amazing. I'd love to reach that age. I probably won't, but again, I digress. Well, I can imagine you have plenty of grandchildren to spoil at Christmas. M and OL too are talking away. I don't recall what about, but I do hear my name mentioned a couple of times. 10 grandchildren, each with children of their own. I was stunned and amazed by how much this lady had achieved after so long a time. Plenty of fun at Christmas, I'm betting. I can imagine. Indeed it is, very tiring as well. OL1 and OL2 paid for their shopping, wished us well, and left the store talking away. Well, P, can you imagine reaching such an age and having those kinds of stories to tell? I can't, but I think this story will be one to tell at some point. I couldn't either. They both look at me. I feel a little nervous. Before M says something, they had nothing but good things to tell about you. I'm impressed. I tried to make it look like no big deal. I only did what was needed. The store closes a minute or two after. We tidy up and we part ways for the day. I haven't seen either OL1 or OL2 since, and I hope they're still going to this day. I personally hope they both reach a century in age. I still speak with AM and M, but not very often, as life separated us and we don't get much time to talk. Sometimes it's the least likely people you can find that can turn your day around. Just stay positive, as someone like OL1 and OL2 could talk with you and brighten your day. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Adventures in Fast Food and Retail. Number 53, and thank you very much for everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Okay, I'm going to keep this outro short because I am melty freezer today. It hasn't been very sunny today, but I'm feeling quite warm. And I also have to try and get these videos wrapped up so I can get to bed to get a rest, because I've got my check-up at the hospital tomorrow, the dermatologist. I'm going to say to them, they moved the day this week, which is actually kind of inconvenient for me. They moved it to Tuesday instead of Monday. So I'm going to say to them when I'm down, because they know it's working, they know it's just going to take a while. So there's no reason for them to see me twice a week. So I'm just going to say to them tomorrow if the once a week would be fine for a checkup, because I don't really see the point in me going down there twice a week. It's money in a taxi, because obviously I don't want to walk down and be all sweaty by the time I get there. So I just kind of roll out of bed and call a cab, and then I walk home. And if I need to do any shopping, I'll do that on the way back. Then we'll see what happens. Okay, and with that I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.